so much for tuning in today. Most of you know me as Dr. Jamie. I'm a doctor of acupuncture and Oriental medicine, and it is my passion and my goal to introduce you to and share with you useful insights and information around people, plants, and processes. Have you ever thought about the supplements and herbs in your cupboard or your refrigerator and thought to yourself, how did they get here? Can I trust what I'm putting in my body? And if you've ever wondered this, then you're going to want to stay tuned for the entire podcast today with Kimber Meek on processes. With that said, let's get to know Kimber and how her work adds so much value to the world, and hopefully you're already one of them. So, hi Kimber, how are you today?
Hi Jamie, I'm doing well, thank you.
Good, good. Thank you so much for being on today. I think we're all very excited. We have all of these supplements and herbs in our cupboards and our refrigerator. We've looked at them. We've consumed them. They're beautiful, but what's the process? How do they get to this point? And then how do I get to take them? So first of all, tell me a little bit about yourself and what do you do for work?
Yeah, so a little bit about me. I have grown up in Utah. I love it here. Beautiful landscape to go adventure in. And I also have a lot of family around here and get to enjoy some time with them as well. Some of my current hobbies right now, I like to take my daughter to the park. She's 4 years old and we have a lot of fun doing that. Also enjoy bike rides and reading. And currently I've been doing a lot of camping with family. So that's a little bit about me and some of my interests. And the other thing about me is I work for Nature Sunshine. I had gone to school through BYU, Brigham Young University, and I got a Bachelor's of Science degree in food science. And I also minored in nutrition and business management. And I have taken that to Nature Sunshine, and yeah, it's been a great time. Let me fill you in a little bit about my position. So at Nature Sunshine, I work at the Hughes Center of Excellence in Research and Innovation, and I work as a product development scientist. And if there's anything that I have learned about nutrition and some of the things from my education and working with Nature Sunshine is that, food plays a huge part in our health, as well as the supplements and, nutrients we're giving ourselves. So our diet in general is going to play a big role.
So I should probably get rid of all that soda pop that's in my refrigerator right now.
Possibly, or at least moderate your consumption, right?
Okay, I don't actually have any in there, but if I did, I may want to consider throwing it out.
Yes, yes. There's a lot of things that do contribute to our health, right? There's environmental stressors. We have our diet, which, I feel is the biggest, or which we know is, going to contribute to our health the most. We also have disease and illness that can affect our health. There's a lot of things, but one thing that we can actually control and at least, tackle ourselves is what we eat, right? And so along those lines, I would, some of the highlights that I would say is when you're at the grocery store, you're shopping around the edges and getting your fresh fruits and vegetables and, whole grains and, nutrient dense foods, opposed to some of the more processed foods that taste yummy, but sometimes don't really contribute to a very well-being, right, in our health. In addition to that, our water consumption, you mentioned the sugary drinks, increase our water intake and less of the sugary drinks. Sometimes it can just be small changes, right? And then adding on to that, really getting some high quality supplements to help. Very rarely can we get everything we need by our diets, right? So yeah, Nature's Sunshine is here to be able to supply some of those to you, and yeah, we can talk more about them.
Well, I think that's interesting. I really like how you said shop the edges of the supermarket. I guess I never really thought about it like that, but that really is where the colors of the rainbow are, right? We're getting our green leafy vegetables, anything that is colorful that should really be in our diet and in our food consumption. I'm a big tea drinker, so I like to drink my tea, but I do think about what goes into this tea bag. I love Nature Sunshine products. I've got my turmeric right here, my elderberry defense, as we're moving into, I guess we'll call it, it's San Diego, so we're seeing, sunny and 75 right now, but as we move into the winter months, we will see some rain. So I just want to preventatively start taking my supplements now, just in case I'm not getting those from the edges of the supermarket.
Right.
So I appreciate that. That's really good food for thought, but I do wonder, why is it so important to follow processes when it comes to formulations?
Yeah. So in my job, I work first with our purchasing department to source high quality vitamins, minerals, and more. And then I also work with our R&D science team to make sure we're providing an efficacious supplement that also follows safety regulations. And then I furthermore work with our operations team to get the product through our manufacturing process and out the door to our consumers. So as we talk about process, I don't know, I like to compare it a lot to baking in our kitchen.
Yeah.
So if you have ever gone in your kitchen to make some food, let's say that you were told to, try a new recipe, a new dish that you've never made. And if somebody said to you, okay, go make this, and they didn't give you any instruction or any list of ingredients, you might not be able to make it right, right?
Definitely.
And
I definitely need the list. I need the step by step. And if I miss a step, I'm in big trouble. So you're right. I need the recipe.
right, right. So we need that recipe with instructions. We also need, what ingredients need to go into that. And that's kind of the start of our process, right? Working with the research and development department, we're honing in on what ingredients need to go into the formula, what amounts, and what order do we need to process this to keep the materials quality there. And so that's just the first part of it. I would also add on to this, I don't know if you have ever made chocolate chip cookies, but not followed the correct process. In our typical recipe for a chocolate chip cookie, you're going to mix your dry ingredients and your wet ingredients, and then you're going to combine those. And then at the end, you'll add your chocolate chips. If you do that all out of order, you kind of end up with lumpy or not well mixed or over mixed, or maybe your chocolate chips are all crunched up because you put them in first. There's so many different things that can affect the quality of your product when you don't mix in a proper process.
Well, I can speak firsthand, having children, that we have gone out of order. So we have tasted chocolate chip cookies that didn't even taste like cookies at all. So I think it's important to follow the process. And it sounds like over at the Hughes Center, there's a lot of rigor and science and process that goes into basically from farm to bottle to consumer.
Yeah, it really is. And we start with making sure we're sourcing high quality raw materials that we can trust, and we're verifying that they're free of contaminants, all of those things to make sure that we start first with great ingredients before we even get into the process of making the supplements.
And it's my understanding that Nature Sunshine has special equipment that can help identify different particulates and things that maybe a farmer might say, oh, this is 100% organic. But then when you test the batch with this special machinery, you can really verify if it's of its accuracy or not. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have invested a lot in our equipment and our quality assurance department to be able to have top of the line equipment to test our materials and make sure that we are able to provide a clean and efficacious material through our process and building our supplements. Yeah, it's true.
That's awesome. And that leads us into the next question, which is, can you explain the rigor behind the processes and producing efficacious herbs and supplements?
Yeah, certainly. We really start on paper. We can't go make a supplement without taking the time to put in research and working back and forth with our formulators and our research and development team. We have a full team of experts to really work through our formulas on paper first to make sure that we're headed in the right direction. And so that is a rigorous process. And sometimes it can be a lengthy process, right? We want to get it right the first time. There's the saying, measure twice and cut once, right? So I would say that that applies to Nature's Sunshine. We really do our work up front to make sure that we're going to provide a great supplement to our customers. The next thing that really is rigorous for us is our testing. You mentioned some of our equipment that we have in our quality department, and that sometimes takes time. Sometimes we have to work back and forth with our vendors and the suppliers, and sometimes we test a material and it doesn't meet our standard, right? And we have to go to a different supplier and vendor, and that sometimes takes time as we end up rejecting a material that we would have liked to have used, but it's just not good enough. And so that can take a good amount of time, but quality is important. And then I guess the rigor of manufacturing and that whole process, we work with our process development team to make sure that we don't lose the quality of our herbs in the actual process of encapsulating them or mixing them. Being very mindful of mixing time to make sure we get a evenly mixed product, but not over mixed or damaged product, right? So all of those things are part of our process.
So would it be safe to assume that if I were a farmer and you were sourcing an ingredient from me and it didn't meet Nature's Sunshine's quality, their standard, that batch would be rejected? Nature's Sunshine wouldn't take that batch and go, oh, we're looking for 90% efficacious, but we got 75. We're gonna just kind of call it good, right? There's no shortcuts in the Hughes Center. You guys are of excellence.
Right. Definitely of excellence. Yes. We won't make those shortcuts. It's not about just getting the material here and the product out. It's about making sure that we're delivering on our word of what we're saying is in the bottle. So we will guarantee that it's passing our specs and that, we're testing at the raw material level. And that also comes out with testing at our finished good supplement. So we are testing the raw materials, and then through to the finished good, we test it at the finished good level to ensure that everything is there that we've listed on our label.
That's awesome. So no shortcuts.
No shortcuts for us. Nope.
Okay, good. And I really like that you said measure twice and cut once. So I think that's very important in this conversation around processes. We kind of covered this a little bit, but does quality mean anything in your profession? Can you elaborate on that just a little bit more?
Yeah, certainly. As priding ourselves as the Hughes Center of Excellence, quality really starts on day one. It's not something that we look at the end. It is something that we look and address up front in the very beginning. And we take our team of experts to ensure that anything coming out the door of Nature's Sunshine has gone through that rigorous process of checking all boxes of our quality and safety department. So
that's awesome. I am very interested in our next question, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners are as well. We started off by saying, these supplements are in your cupboard, and just thinking about that process, how did they get from point A to point B? You had mentioned, R&D, operations, manufacturing, and then eventually to the consumers once the product meets the quality and the standards set there by Nature Sunshine. But what is the timeline from earth to bottle, and what would prevent it from reaching completion?
Yeah. I think, we're kind of naive to this as consumers a lot. We'd like to think that, oh, there's something that we want, and, they go out and they get it and they make it for us, and it's maybe 2 to 3 months and it's here, right? But the reality of that is that it can take much longer. For a simple product that we make, we might see something around 16 months to get it from earth, where we're sourcing the raw material through all of our testing and through the manufacturing process and our research and development, and out to our consumers. A product that's maybe more complex could even take longer, maybe even around 2 years. There's always a bigger picture to the process than what we may think. And I mean, here at the Hughes Center, we definitely start that process and we take it seriously from the very beginning to the very end.
That's awesome. So I guess all my hopes and dreams of creating my own elderberry defense with added herbs is out the door. So 16 months sounds like at minimum to just make sure it goes through raw materials, testing, manufacturing, all the research, all the science that goes into it, and all the rigor that goes into this. That's a long time. And is that just for one product, one formulation?
That is one formulation, yes. So each of our products go through all of that process, right? To make sure that we're delivering some of the best supplements on the market.
So maybe that's why Nature Sunshine has 50 years of herbal experience, 50 years, and the product portfolio has almost 600 products in it. And now that makes sense, right?
Right, it does. Yeah, 50 years of experience and 600 products. That's a lot, right? Over that amount of time, knowing the kind of process. And then there's always improvements too. Like science is constantly changing, right? We're constantly learning new things about health and wellness. And so we take those formulas sometimes and we do make those adjustments, bringing in that new science and innovation, and, working to continue to stay on top of the edge of science and where we're going with that. So, there's always reformulation and improvements that are made as well.
That's awesome. Is there anything else that you think our listeners should know about, especially around processes?
We appreciate your patience with us. We work to get things out to you quickly, but we never compromise the quality of our product. We understand the importance of having a supplement available to you that's pure, potent, and proven. And we use our science to back that up, right? That's what Nature Sunshine stands for. And I think the other thing that I would maybe just say is, if you're looking to improve your health, one great way to start that's just really simple is to add a high quality supplement to your diet, right? Making actual diet changes can be challenging and hard, but it's really simple to add a high quality supplement to your diet and just start there. And Nature Sunshine has a great product portfolio for you to look through. So
one thing that I just kind of off topic here is sometimes if you don't like to take supplements and herbs, this is what I like to use: the collagen and or liquid chlorophyll. I just add this into my water. I can have this all day. It tastes great, but I just love liquid chlorophyll, and any shake or smoothie I'm making, I'm putting some collagen in there. So I know I'm covered that way. And then of course, some of my supplements. But do you have any recommendations? What do you use in your home or for your family?
Yeah, similar to you right now, I'm definitely looking at immune system, right? Getting into these winter months and trying to make sure that I've got my immune system ready. So I like to especially focus on getting a probiotic and my vitamin D this time of year. Just really getting my body ready to combat those illnesses that are going to go around that we know about. But yep, those are
Yeah,
two of my favorites.
I've got my vitamin D. I can't see which one it is, but one of these over here.
There you go. That's great.
Okay, well, awesome. I just want to say thank you to everyone who stayed tuned in and listening today on the Dr. Jamie podcast. Today with Kimber Meek. She is our product development scientist over at the Hughes Center of Nature's Sunshine. And so I just thank you so much today, Kimber, for being on and sharing all this information around processes. I think the listeners have really gained a lot of valuable insights as to what you and the team of excellence do over at the Hughes Center. So for that, I thank you. I'd love to have you back on again. I know my listeners would love to hear more about processes, about the Hughes Center, and just kind of get really down into the roots and the weeds, or shall I say not weeds, going into the Nature Sunshine products. So thank you for that. And I wish you a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
I appreciate you tuning in to the Dr. Jamie podcast. If you're interested in getting updates on when we release new videos, please click the subscribe button below and you will be notified and you won't miss out.